describe your emotions right now.
I can't. I don't know what. Oh, hang on for a second. We got a visitor.
The Panthers hoist, and this panel runs into an Emily Kaplan straight from assignment. She was there. You're in trouble, and the Florida Panthers are champions. Let's go around the horn. Emily Kaplan right off the plane, off the tarmac to our chair. I do appreciate you being here so much, Emily. Focused on the almost choke for the Panthers. Does the way they won after gacking it almost make it sweeter? I'll ask you to consider that as you see the cup in the Atlantic Ocean, a very Florida man and now Florida Cup situation. How the Panthers did it, though, in this series, defibrillating their life and getting the lead yesterday and holding on for dear life. Game 7 at home, neutralizing Edmonton's desperate attack at the end and hoisting the first cup in franchise history. The Rats raining down the ice. Emily, you were on that ice. You were there. You were in it. Around the horn to you on how the Florida Panthers did it.
I'm glad I'm in my own box because I think that cup got more showers than I have since the game ended. The Florida Panthers are the team with the strongest identity in hockey. They're the best defensive team in hockey. 2 years ago, they were setting all types of offensive records, and then Paul Maurice came in and said, no, this type of style is not going to win in the playoffs. And now their style is built on bullying teams. It's physicality, their forecheck, scrums after the whistle. They lost their way in those 3 games when the Edmonton Oilers climbed back. I think it was all getting in their mind. They were scared to make those hard plays. But as Paul Maurice told me after the game, of course, this is the way it is for us. It's never easy for us. And as Matthew Tkachuk told me after last round of dispatching the Rangers, we think our style is really hard to play, but it's also really hard to play against. The fact that they could find it when it mattered most is what this championship is all about.
Emily Kaplan was there. Tim Kalishaw, you covered a whole chunk of this postseason to see Florida hoist the Stanley Cup.
Yes.
What did it for them?
I was also there when Colorado beat Florida 28 years ago. So I know it's been a while for those rat-throwing Panthers fans waiting for a cup to arrive. And this was a deserving team, as Emily said. It was the best team. I think it was the best team during the year, even if they didn't win the President's Trophy. It was the best team in the front part of the playoffs. And I saw Edmonton doing to them the same thing they did to Dallas. Dallas could not recover from that. Florida had an extra win in their pocket, and then they were able to. I thought it was an outstanding series, but I thought Florida in Game 7 would be able to do what they did. They take care of business there. They shut people down, and even Connor McDavid, the best player in the league, shut him down the last 2 games. That gets him a cup.
Mina Kimes, you want to answer the big philosophical question? Did the struggle make this win sweeter?
Well, the almost choke job was relevant insofar as it added a layer of pressure for this team. Maurice admitted as much. I'm not speculating there. But, in 10 years or even 5 years, heck, when we look back on this, nobody will remember it. They will simply remember it, the win, rather, as a triumph for an organization that was long regarded as one of the more unserious franchises in professional sports. They'll remember Maurice, the incredible moments he had after the game, the interview, of course, with Emily, but also his comments were just honestly one of the more moving post-game comments I can remember after a championship from a coach. And then, as Emily said, a team that won in Game 7 the way that they got here with their defense, topping the Oilers in hits, block shots, takeaways, blanking, one of the most terrifying duos in the entire league. It was a remarkable finish for a team and truly a statement of identity from this.
And Kevin Blackstone, let me ask you the big philosophical question. Did the struggle make the summiting that much sweeter?
I guess it did. It was certainly a fitting ending because Game 7 was emblematic of where the first 6 games went in this series, right? Fall behind and then have to come back and save the day. And so that's what happened here. So I guess that it does, and the fact that it's the first 30 years, the franchise history, to have the cup down there, that does make it sweet. It does make it memorable. And how did they do it? As everyone alluded to, they did it with defense. I mean, they shut down the duo. Bobrovsky, who looked like he had lost it, right? He'd given up 12 goals in the past 3 games, all of a sudden regained it. And he didn't have to work incredibly hard with 23
So 123 total shots for Edmonton in the game. You're right.
Correct.
That's how that defense works. It's not even like we'll just stop. You don't even get the shots off. That's the magic of the forecheck of this team. One more follow-up here on this team. Having lost the cup in the past, recently, this past season, and coming back. So it wasn't just the comeback in this series, Emily Kaplan. What about this team, the intestinal fortitude, jumped out to you?
You know, well, last year when they made the playoffs, it was on the very last day as the last seed, and no one believed in them. And they beat the Boston Bruins. It was the biggest upset because the Boston Bruins had the most wins in the regular season than any team, and it was like this us against the world mentality. And they came into this season as the favorites, as the team that everyone expected. And I think just the bravado and the confidence, and it's so much mirrored of their coach, Paul Maurice, who became a star in all these press conferences because of how engaging he is, but also Matthew Tkachuk, who I think is one of the true beauties of our game because he's just so unaffected by things.
We've been horned. We'll move on and talk Conn Smythe now. Connor McDavid. Emily, you voted. You voted for McDavid. He was 1 vote short of unanimous, but he won it on a losing team, which does not happen often. Only the 6th time the MVP of the postseason comes from a losing team. Only the 2nd time it was a skater. When he was announced, Florida fans booed slightly, and he did not come out to get the trophy from the commissioner. That trophy just sat there. So, Em, I want you to unpack how a playoff MVP from a losing team lands for you, and then on McDavid not coming up to pick up the trophy.
This is the award for the entirety of the playoffs, and Sasha Barkov did such a good job shutting down star players in the first 3 series, but he had no answer to Connor McDavid, who broke Wayne Gretzky's assist record. He put the team on his back. He dragged them along with him with his work ethic. Even when he wasn't putting up like the back-to-back 4-point nights, he was doing it defensively, and that's why I voted for him. As for not accepting the award, it was a very vulnerable moment, and yes, the fans booed, but he had the respect not just of us, the writers, but the Panthers too. I was standing there as Sam Reinhart was telling his team, hey guys, clap for him. Like, this is history that we just witnessed, and I thought that was really cool.
Tim Kalishaw, your Conn Smythe winner, was it also going to be Connor McDavid?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that anytime you're getting up there with Gretzky and Lemieux and the all-time records, and you look at the scoring in that era and the scoring in this era, it's just incredible what he did. He was the deserving winner, and hockey's a team sport. He might feel bad going out to collect that while his teammates have their head down, you know, in the locker room. He's not going to leave that scene. You saw him talking to the bench throughout the 3rd period. You saw him taking shift after shift, trying, you know, spark out to collect that while his teammates have their head down, you know, in the locker room. He's not going to leave that scene. You saw him talking to the bench throughout the 3rd period. You saw him taking shift after shift, trying to, you know, spark up.
NHL decided to give him that award on the opposing team's ice, where the opposing team's fans are celebrating a team victory. This is an individual award, and I think that they should rethink how they award it or where they award it. And good for Connor McDavid to say, no, thank you, stay inside, and let the fans of the Florida Panthers celebrate.
Oh, so you're saying the cup should be the first thing you see when
Absolutely.
the season's over.
That's what that's all about.
Especially when it's being celebrated on a home ice.
Absolutely.
Emily, last word here on McDavid. 3-time MVP, 9 years in, and no cup.
Yeah, I mean, and he put the pressure on himself, right? Because at the end of last season, he said Stanley Cup or bust. We're appreciating and we're witnessing just one of the greatest to play the game. As Mina mentioned, we can't say he's a GOAT yet, but he's going to get there, especially if he wins. And also, he played through this entire playoffs with a very serious injury. Just consider that a total hockey guy, and he was able to produce what he did.
Talk to me about Edmonton now, the what now for a team that had also just a historic season, right? The way they started, the way they fought back in this series, Emily. What's the play for the Oilers?
Well, you're looking at it right now. That's the big question, Leon Draisaitl, because he's eligible for an extension right now. And the question is, does he want to stay in Edmonton or go to another team where he can be the star? And that's going to change the fortune of this team. I think there's encouraging signs that a lot of depth players showed up. A lot of young players did show up in this series. But there's a lot of uncertainty. It's really hard to go back-to-back and produce this type of result. I think Stuart Skinner has arrived. Paul Coffey, an assistant coach, they told the Hall of Famer, uproot your life, come behind the bench when they were in this much turmoil in November. Does he want to stay on? And he did a great job behind the bench. So a lot of questions for them this offseason.
And Tim, can you see this team, Edmonton, doing what Florida did, having the disappointment and coming back?
Well, that's going to be the goal. And if you look at their record after Knobloch came in and where they would have been in the standings, they could have had the number 1 seed in the West. But there's kind of a big 4 out there: Colorado, Dallas, Vegas, and Edmonton, and maybe Vancouver stays in that mix. I don't know. That's a big cluster of really good teams that are going to have similar rosters next year. It's going to be a tough fight.
But they have Paul Maurice, who a lifer, as we always love our coaches to be, hoisting and where he was with you, Emily, on the ice. And later I heard it with Scott Van Pelt and Kyle Bauskas of Sportsnet as well, talking about how it lived up to the dream he had and also exceeded it, lifting up. And he said it was about the hugs. The best part was the hugs, hugging his players, and I loved hearing that too. Remember, get those hugs, everybody. Buy or sell next. JJ Redick, an intro presser for the ages. Let's take a listen.
I have never coached in the NBA before. I don't know if you guys have heard that. I want to become a great coach in the NBA, and I want to win championships, and I want my players to maximize their careers. That's all I care about. With LeBron, I want him shooting threes. Anthony and I already had a conversation a week ago. The idea of him as a hub.
JJ and I have had some really robust conversations around innovation and sort of even gamifying player development.
Mina Kimes, how do you hear Redick and Pelinka there? What do you think it all means for the Lakers?
Well, I hear Pelinka as someone who sounds like he's trying to sell me an app, maybe? I don't quite understand how gamifying player development would work. As far as JJ goes, look, he's a great communicator. You see that there. We knew he was a great communicator. What I found fascinating was the way he talks about how he wants to change the way this team plays, basically shooting more threes. The Lakers ranked 28th in three-point attempts last year.
Okay.
They have never ranked above 17th with LeBron and AD. So my question for JJ is, do you want to take that, you want to make that shift with the players who are on your roster, or does this signify perhaps an approach to the offense?
Tim Kalishaw, how did you hear the intro presser?
What I hear is I think we're past the days of Phil Jackson with the Lakers passing out novels and self-help books to inspire his
Yeah,
players.
they're now gamifying it
those
to
days-
inspire, but I would say
those
that's
days
similar. I would.
Sadly, those days are gone. You know, I think JJ has a chance. We've seen other ex-players go very quickly from the end of their careers without any real coaching to having some success. You got to have good assistants. You got to communicate, and you got to have a very different team, as Mina just said, to go out there and challenge the Celtics for three-point attempts.
How about a chip on a shoulder? Do you have to have that, Tim? Do you have any view of that? Because there was the profanity.
Yeah.
There was another clip going around. We didn't show there, but it's there.
He's trying to show it's there, and I thought he was fine with that. He overdid it a little bit, but that's okay.
Emily Kaplan?
We've missed the best quote, which is excommunicating yourself from the content space.
Yeah, that was another one. Yeah, chip on the shoulder.
I would like to be there. I think he came across as really arrogant and confident, and that's okay because that's who he's been since he was 18 years old at Duke as the villain. And this is one of the toughest jobs in sport with so much scrutiny. And I just feel like because of his resume, he's uniquely qualified just to be immune to it all and be himself. And I think that's a great fit for the Lakers.
Kevin Blackstone.
You talk about a chip on his shoulder. You're using microchips to get this team ahead. That's the chip. that
That's
they're
the app again, the Gamify, yes.
I think the thing that jumped out to me was that he said he had not talked to LeBron James, which either means he's not telling the truth, or if he didn't, he didn't do himself due diligence before he took the job.
Can I say this for the record? We are thumbs up on gamification. Thumbs up on gamification. Although I don't question whether it's a Duolingo thing for these younger players. Every day they got to open up a spreadsheet and do 5 minutes worth of play diagnosis. Very interesting. We'll move on. U.S. track and field Olympic qualifying. Devastation for Athing Mu yesterday. Let's talk about it. Going down in the track, if you view that as a fall or a trip, I'll hear you out there on the end result, though. The 22-year-old gold medalist from Tokyo and world champion from 2022 and national record holder in the 800 is out, unqualified for that race for Paris. Her coach, the great Bob Kersey, lodged a protest. She was spiked from behind. That protest was denied. Of course, jubilation here for the 3 qualifiers for the national team. The winner was Nia Akins, who shockingly and devastatingly fell on the track last qualifier while contacting with Mo in the race. So we just had a national discourse on Olympic roster selection for basketball and what priorities should be. With track and field, you know what it is. It's about winning the races or qualifying in the top 3. Kevin, how do you see it all?
Well, first of all, Bobby Kersey's been around forever, and he said in his quote, I mean, this is part of the game. That was incidental contact. The 800's a very difficult race when you bunch up coming off that first curve, and that's exactly what happened. Unfortunately, this is the way the U.S. Olympic track and field trials are run, and that is what makes this the greatest track event on the planet Earth every 4 years. You go in, you have to win. It doesn't matter injury or anything else, and then you move on.
So you don't believe there's any protest that could be filed? There's any, of course, extra benefit a national record holder would have? Emily Kaplan, how about you?
Nope.
It's why the Olympics are the most beautiful but excruciating sporting event in the entire world. I mean, Nia Akins ran the race of her life, like a personal best, and you're going to tell her that she doesn't deserve it? She also had this cruel fate in Tokyo, right? Like, she fell and missed the team. Like, this is what qualifiers are for, and sometimes it's unfair. Life's unfair, and the Olympics are definitely unfair.
Kalisha?
I understand the sentiment. You want to send your absolute best, and that's a gold medal winner. But as KB said, there's just no way around it, and you can't just tell others, okay, we got one automatic qualifier, and we're going to have these other 2 spots. That wouldn't work. You've got to go with.
And Mina Kimes.
Okay, you can't do it this time, which is say you can't change the rules post hoc, but it is something I think that the U.S. should consider going forward so that they can ensure they send their best. But I agree with fellow panelists. I also don't think that was a trick.
Kevin, do other countries, federations use a different system depending on what they decide?
Yeah, they may use a national champion or somebody that has a record. They may do that, but here in this country, we do it differently, a very democratic
Mo,
way.
one of the superstars of the track world, and of course the last games, and so young at age 22, still can qualify for a relay, which she won gold in the last Olympics, but not in the 800. Mina Kimes, Tim Kalisha. We're going to have to gamify a little bit of the results here today for you to come back stronger next time. Kaplan, Blackistone, showdown next. Ever College World Series Championship, magnificent game. Tennessee 6, Texas A&M 5. So how about this play in the 7th? The whole play, the relays and the ball up the wall. And Hunter Hensley avoiding the tag. Take another look. This was Tennessee's 6th run in a game that ended 6-5, so it decided the game. Emily, how will you remember Tennessee's championship?
That's one of the most athletic plays I've ever seen in baseball. That base running, I mean, base running coaches everywhere are salivating. This is the example to show. And then the helmet spike at the end, we cut off, but it was quite swaggy.
Kevin Blackistone.
Well, first I was going to say the first team, #1 to win it all since in a quarter century, but that play right there, that goes down in lore. Absolutely.
We'll split the points. We'll move on. NBA draft preview extravaganza. Every pick in order. That's what I expect. Let's go around the horn. Kevin Blackistone. Okay, maybe not. But most interesting development you can foresee so far in this draft.
Well, everybody's going to pay attention to where Bronny goes, or if he doesn't go, which would be a shocker. But I would also want to see where Edie is going to go. A guy that big who doesn't shoot it, is he still an NBA player?
Emily Kaplan.
It's all about the Spurs for me. Wembanyama is going to top off as like the best player in the league 1-2 years from now. They've got the #4 pick, #8 pick. What players they put around him? Did they get one of his French buddies?
Not a lot of visibility into this draft. It seems like it's really up in the air. I'm also looking at Zach Edey because he outplayed Klingon in the national championship game. Yet somehow it's like, could he make the NBA? Yeah, he should make the NBA if he's outplaying the guy who's going to go in the top 3. Point Stone. We'll move on. Showdown 3 from the Give That Fan a Contract files. Orioles fan makes this incredible catch with drink and phone in one hand, baby stroller nearby as well. And here's what he said after.
But when you're good, you're good.
Emily, is that a better catch or better quote?
One of the best baseball quotes I've heard since Yogi Berra, and as someone who's talked way too much on national TV the last 2 months, I like just the simpleness.
Kevin Blackstone.
And it's accurate. This guy was a championship baseball player at Chesapeake High School,
Whoa.
apparently. So he should be able to make the
Research.
catch. Great. But there's nobody around him. Nobody to jostle him out the way. Good play there.
Wow, I didn't know we knew about his high school career. I only know him as a great church softball player. Kevin Blackstone, 30 seconds of FaceTime.
I just want to say in 1992, I was at the track and field trials down in New Orleans. It was the year of Dan and Dave, number 1 and number 2, basically in the decathlon around the country. I get a call from Ken Stevens, who was covering the Olympics at that time for the Dallas Morning News. He says, hey, you better get over here this particular morning. I said, why? I'm coming over in the afternoon for the sprints. He said, well, Dan O'Brien just missed on the pole vault, and he will not be going to the Olympics. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So that shows you how cutthroat the U.S. trial can be.
Yeah, you could be number 1 and number 2 in the world and still miss the Olympics.
Unbelievable.
Complete what they started out a few games ago to do. McDavid gutted. Alexander Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk hoisting the cup. Paul Maurice coached more games for his first cup win in NHL history. And Tkachuk and Jason Tatum both bringing back the hardware.
Hey, 2 champs from St. Louis. Are you kidding me right now? You kidding me? Sean Menard, everybody there, all the teachers, classmates, you guys should all be very proud. 2 champs, baby.
Yeah, you got an NBA win, you got a hockey win, and of course, one of the great traditions of the NHL is the champion celebrating with the cup in just random places. So there is Tkachuk taking the cup for a swim in the Atlantic Ocean. How about Tkachuk and Sam Bennett catapulting beer from the cup off of a balcony to a man below who's trying to drink it? That's a bit of a tough chug. It's like trying to drink out of a water hose. Didn't work well, but certainly they are celebrating. You know who's not celebrating despite getting some hardware? Connor McDavid. It was a historic playoff run for him, and he's now the 6th player in Stanley Cup history to win the Conn Smythe Award. That is the MVP, playoff MVP, and finished with 42 points this postseason. It's the 4th most in a single postseason all time. For much more on McDavid, here's Tony and Mike in tonight's BTI bonus segment.
All right, Wilbon, who is the best player to never win a championship in any sport?
Oh, my God, Tony, that list is so long, and it's a glamorous list. I mean, it's got Hall of Famers galore. I'm going to do, let me get the glasses, I'm going to do an all-Chicago list first, and it's Banks, Sayers, Butkus, Urlacher, and Jenkins, right?
What a surprise.
Banks, Sayers,
yes.
Butkus, Urlacher, and Jenkins. That's pretty good, right? But the all-time, the list forever and ever of all people from all places has got to have Ted Williams and Elgin Baylor on it for my money. And then I got to have Ken Griffey Jr., I got my dear friend Charles Barkley, and I got Tony Gwynn. And I know I'm passing on Patrick Ewing, a dream teamer and a Hall of Famer as well. But that's going to be my 5. Williams, Baylor, Griffey, Barkley, and Gwynn. How about that?
Okay, so did you mention Patrick Ewing? Didn't he win an NCAA championship? Well, doesn't that count if you win an NCAA?
He did.
Yeah,
good.
so he's off the list.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Take him off the list. All right.
Cool.
I am going to be harsh here. I am going to eliminate every single player who played in what we would agree is the expanded playoff era. Because they had shots. They had shots
They did.
8, 10 times.
Yep.
You
Okay,
know,
that's fair.
I mean, that's a lot.
That's
so
fair.
I'm just eliminating all of them. And I'm going backwards, and I'm going to concentrate on baseball because for 100 years, baseball defined sports in America, team sports in America, was essentially baseball, ahead of football, basketball, hockey, everything else. And for me, there's one guy. It's Teddy Ballgame. He's the greatest hitter of all time. He got one shot in a World Series and he didn't win. Because in those days, if you didn't win the league, there was no other playoff. You had to win the league to get to the World Series. So that combination, his being in only one, and I could make a case for Ernie Banks as well if you want to do that, because he never even got to the World Series. But Ted Williams, the greatest hitter of all time. So for me, he's the greatest player to never win a championship.
You know I'm not going to argue that. And remember, at one time in the NFL, you had to win. There were only 2, whatever you want to call them, divisions or conference. You had to finish atop that. And you advanced to a championship game, and Butkus and Sayers didn't make that, so they didn't get to play in a playoff at all. So they weren't in
That's right. They were not
playoffs.
Mike, they were not in the expanded playoff era.
Right.
They were not.
Yes,
so
you're right.
yeah, so
That's
they
right.
rise up on the list. Yes.
Yeah. Everybody under 60 sitting at home going, what's expanded playoff era? We don't understand that. We know you don't. Listen up. That's it. We're done. Back to you.
Yeah, just go Google it. Coming up on SportsCenter with Canada.